haven't been this excited to listen to a string of audio since I was given antique phonograph cylinders with those presidential bedroom conversations I bought from an estate sale. Best purchase I ever made.
My public! A true Looney legend has graced the podcast once more, and she's here to discuss her new role as Petunia Pig in The Day the Earth Blew Up. So of course you realize this means podcast.
Are you ready, eager young space cadets? Meep, meep.
I call Porky.
That is the limit.
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
Having Candi Milo on the show usually means talking Granny or Witch Hazel, as we've done in the past, but today it is all about Petunia, baby. One of the longest-lasting female comedians in animation, and thanks to the revitalization series Looney Tunes Cartoons, which debuted in 2020 and concluded last year with the first ever stop-motion short, Daffy and Wackyland, we were given a new take on the character with Laura Jill Miller taking the reins. But don't be fooled, there's more to the character than her hapless nature, which was on full display in that series. For Candi to have brought a new dimension on this character in this movie, in the first ever fully animated Looney Tunes theatrical feature, The Day the Earth Blew Up, hitting theaters March 14th. It is such an honor and pleasure to have you back. Candi, welcome to the show, and how are you today?
I am great, and it is so good to be back and talking about all things Looney.
Yes.
Once again. I was actually asked by a huge Looney Tunes fan. I saw the picture in theaters for the first time. With a crowd when they were putting it up to try to be considered for
the Oscars. Yes, the Oscar contention screenings.
So we went there, and it was a huge packed place, and people were really laughing. And it was funny that you mentioned Laura Jo Miller, because somebody said before the movie started, I hope that you bring the life, the qualities that Laura Jill Miller did. And I said, you're going to be sorely disappointed. sorely disappointed.
In the best way, though.
Thank you. It
is a new take.
I said, God love her, this is my childhood. And I know,
yes.
And you know, we did try to do the, I love a tuna, I love a tee-dee-da-dee-da. I tried to do that 40s thing. And
yeah.
I do think it was Sam Register that said, we're not doing the traditional. We're not going to she is a scientist. She has to have a personality. She also has to be somewhat of a straight man. And I just love the way that she's written.
Oh, yeah.
And, that this team of Derek Bachman and Pete Braungart, Alex Kerwan, and all the people I'm forgetting, Sam Register, they know how to write these characters. And this iteration that grew out of what I like to call the nice try of Wabbit.
See where the tunnel ends.
It was a nice try, but you had creatives playing the parts and writing, and the jokes were bad, and you kind of said they were so close. I think the idea for Wabbit was to bring the characters into the 21st century with cell phones, but there was not enough of a nod to the past. There was not enough, and it wasn't drawn. It was drawn very 80s, if you remember that.
I can see that. Yeah,
every
hard
skinny,
edges.
Yeah, hard edges. Very lukewarm colors. It wasn't that Warner Brothers. And somebody had said, describe the difference. And I said, I think the difference was twofold between Wabbit and then Looney Tunes cartoons. Big difference is Pete Braungart. Big difference. Um, big difference is bringing in the people who really who are the hit picks for the classic voices, the people who have been doing it and know these characters. And then I think that the writing and the drawing was much more rich, much more colorful, much rounder. The sensibility was that there was more than just a nod to the 1940s and 50s. And you had a cast that could really carry it off. And I think it's because, I really do think it's because in Wabbit, you had the voice director casting. And so there was their friends doing it, or let me break in this new person that took my class. You know, it's that kind of a thing where Sam Register, Spike, you know, Pete Brownguard, they went through who's got, and it's not even so much the voice, but it is, John. It really is.
Yeah. It
is really who understands that sensibility where you're talking like this and everybody knows that the rhythm of the 1940s going into the 1950s, and there's a quickness to it, and there's all of the wink is in the animation, it's not in the voice.
Absolutely.
And then we graduated to Coyote the Acme, which is still such a pain in my heart.
Pain for us too, and the listeners.
Yeah. You know, it really is. It's a pain. You know, that's why I think The Day the Earth Blew Up is hopeful, because I think it's a resurgence, because we then went from Coyote the Acme, which was also beautiful, also unbelievably written, unbelievably directed by David Green, unbelievably no cost spared. It's really amazing. And we come to The Day the Earth Blew Up, which is bubblegum and butt cracks. And I mean, that's what a cartoon is supposed to be. And I don't want to give anything away, but the origin story is hilarious. And their dad is just drawn. It's just so genius.
Yeah.
I just think that it's got a really good chance of bringing us out of this animation funk.
Yes, I can see
that we've been in, because, you know, as we were talking a little bit prior, that Looney Tunes is a franchise.
Yes.
And none of the actors who voice this own these characters. We are all at the mercy of whoever is producing and however we get along. You know, it's really a great gift to get it. But I love to see that. I got to tell you, I mean, Eric Bauza is absolutely brilliant.
I better wake up Daffy. Daffy, wake up, Daffy. You won't take me alive. What are you?
In this.
Yes.
Very gracious, but he's absolutely brilliant in this. And if anything, this piece from Warner Brothers that was taken over by Ketchup Entertainment and marketed and purchased to be in theaters, it might be the way that more animation gets out there. But I got to tell you, having popcorn, but at the Lemley, also a beer, having popcorn and a beer, watching, I was just, and the amount of laughter that I heard from grown-ups, a few kids, very few, like 3, it was, I think we're back. I really do.
I hope so. I mean, you know, the rollout is happening. We had a trailer. We had a huge screening on the Warner Brother lot, which I think gives a lot of faith into audiences and people that want to know if Warner Brothers is behind this movie. They are in some respect. And it's great to see that. Earlier you mentioned Spike. That's Spike Brandt, along with Tony Cervoni, who did Duck Dodgers, the Duck Dodgers series. And as I said in our last show with Alex Kerwan, one of the supervising producer on this movie.
I love him.
If you want Duck Dodgers, this is Duck Dodgers out of the costumes. This is Daffy and Porky going up against an alien invasion. And Petunia was in that series as well. So, you know, all-encompassing Looney Tunes. Some people are going to be asking, you know, is this going to be the big resurgence of 2D in cinemas that we hope it is? And honestly, like, that's what we're championing. We're championing getting animation back into theaters. We're championing 2D hand-drawn animation. This is that. So support it where you can, March 14th. I'm going to put a pin in this real quick because we're getting ahead of ourselves, and I've got some house cleaning to do, which is basically saying to subscribe to the Patreon, because I have up the Alex Kerwan video over there in full glory. Woo! And you can watch us discuss this movie in length and how we're excited about it, as well as, you know, his producing on Looney Tunes cartoons. I think that was a big part of this movie getting made, was the success of that show, and Warner Brothers really seeing the potential that a movie in this style could be. And that's what led us to today. Even though, you know, Ketchup is distributing it, there is still a push from Warner Brothers. I'm seeing it on their social media feeds. I'm seeing the Looney Tunes account post the trailer. You know, there is a little vivacity around it, which is great to celebrate, if you will. So, Candy, coming back to you. You attended the Warner Brothers screening. How was that?
I did. It was so. I was thrilled. I know that you're plugging and doing Patreon, and I get it. And I love Alex Kerwan. You know, he worked with me and Robbie Renzetti on My Life as a Teenage Robot. That's where we first met.
Oh,
and,
wow.
exchange million. We met doing that, and I think we've just become fast friends. But also, I think when you're in a room where everybody's got the same sort of personality, and we come from the same love of slapstick and comedy, like a Duck Dodgers, like that is what it is.
Yeah.
When my daughter and I were driving on, the first thing I said was, "Oh my God, I hope the gang's going to be there. I hope everybody who created it is going to be there." And then casting had gotten a hold of a friend of mine who was my publicist on my book for a long time, and we've just remained really good friends, and they reach out to her. I will tell you that when I saw we were getting a party from Warner Brothers in the big theater, I did not know what to do with myself. Like, I could have slapped myself silly. We walked on, it was all decorated. They had food trucks and bars, and we sat and watched the movie, and it was so beautiful, and the sound was great, and Eric was there with his family, and my daughter and I were there, and it was just at the end, people just hooted and hollered.
Listen to that! They love me!
And I just really loved seeing it. But there were two things that I was feeling.
Do tell.
Because I had seen it before in a theater,
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping that there were executives there that would release Coyote the Acme, that would see that this can make money. And two, I was worried that it would have sort of a star feeling, which was what happened with Space Jam. There were so many people involved in that movie that carried the movie that did not know cartoons. And they did not know quite what we were doing. And so I felt that in Space Jam, you had the cheap seats filled with all the voice actors and the crew, and then you had the Don Cheadles and the Zendayas, and it was just like, oh, I see. What I felt was that there were two different movies. And I just didn't feel like there was like the original, and we're talking about Space Jam 2, because I did feel that there was cohesion in the first one, and it could have been going into CGI. It could be that they tried to do so much, and I was worried that we were not going to have the right reception. But it is a movie of bubblegum and butt cracks. That's what it is, and it is so stupid. So when I walked in, and it was all the voice actors and their family and the crew and some execs at Warner Brothers and Spike and Tony Cervone, and Dave Wasson, and everybody was there
Yeah.
to watch it and laugh. And you know the movie is good. Want to know how I knew the movie was good?
How did you
Everybody stayed for the party. If that movie stunk, they all would have gone back to their they all would have left.
Yeah.
Gone. It was the middle of the week. It was, early. It was 3 p.m. Everybody got off work, and then at 5 p.m. people would have gone home.
Sure.
Everybody stayed. Everybody stayed. Everybody ate. We all talked. There's a photo booth, so I have photo evidence. It was just really great. I got to, much to the chagrin of his girlfriend, I got to multiple kiss Johnny Ryan on his cheek, because he's so wrong. He's so wrong in every way. I love him. And I just think that I'm very excited to bring this origin story back. I mean, there is the nods to Busby Berkeley. There's a nod to Charlie Chaplin. There's a nod to silent films and dun 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 dun. Like, it moves so fast, and the characters are so stupid. And once again, Eric Bauza is beyond phenomenal. It's an Einstein moment.
It is, yeah. Eric
right?
Bauza, by the way, doing dual roles as both Daffy and Porky in this. And
and I mean,
I love Bob Bergen, but I think
I do too.
Eric Bauza is giving him a run for his money on his Porky.
Yeah.
I think that this is just at the height of all his powers, and he's bringing out such a boisterous and vocal range that I've never seen before in this, and it's so interesting to hear, and it's obviously comedy driven. And I can't praise this enough, especially on the vocal performances, yours included. And
Thank you.
Fred Tatasciore as Farmer Jim is just a delight. Anytime he speaks, it cracks me up.
And Lorraine Newman as the homeowners association president. I just think and I want you to know that my daughter sat there and she heard the mayor.
Yes.
Who is Wayne Knight.
Throwing it back to original Space Jam.
Right. And I had directed Wayne Knight in a pilot for Disney like a decade ago.
Oh, wow.
And everybody was like, he can be a little prickly. I loved him. We had a great time. We had a big hug and a kiss afterwards. And she said, when he started to talk, she went, "Oh my God, I love that voice." And I said, "Do you know who that is?" And she went, "No." And I said, "The guy who steals all the eggs for the Velociraptor." And she went, "No!" And I was like, "Yes, it's Wayne Knight." Neumann. And she died. And she was like, "Oh my God, Mom, I love him." And she said his voice was so great. So Wayne Knight, Peter McNichol as
the invader,
as the alien,
is incredible.
It's just, but I had a lot of fun. I will tell you a really fun story, and fun for your listeners. I think that Eric and I did, for me, was my last session on the film. And then Eric might have done more on the lot to finish it out or do things. But our last session for the day the Earth blew up was at Cartoon Network on the day they were closing.
I was actually going to ask you what that was, because you posted a photo together, and I was wondering if that was for this movie or if that was like another project we haven't heard of yet. So that was actually for this.
This was the last, and we worked linearly, and then we did cleanup as it went along. And we were not in picture yet, so we were still laying voices down, but they were closing Cartoon Network. So
yeah, listeners, the building over in Burbank has closed for Cartoon Network, and they took away the sign, and it was a big, monumental, devastating moment for animation fans and for those in the valley, for those in the industry. It was
like the loss, because I do think that Cartoon Network put out some of the greatest stuff. Codename Kids Next Door, under Warner Brothers, but recorded at Cartoon Network. Mucha Lucha, Dexter's Lab, Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff Girls, I mean,
Cow and chicken.
cow and chicken. And I think that it just was an amazing run. So we went in, Eric left. I was the last one in on the last day. And as I was leaving, our producer, Rebecca, gave me an Etch-a-Sketch. She said, take it off the wall. And I thought, oh my God, the Etch-a-Sketch wall where animators would come in and draw their characters on the Etch-a-Sketch.
Wow.
And I guess they were all held on by Velcro. And so Eric and he stayed because either he had forgotten something, so he was going to go back in. And maybe, I don't know why, but I came out and didn't really look up, but walked across the street. Across the street is either a sheriff's substation or the police, and we parked there. So we looked back, and as we were looking back, and he said that he had gotten his start in that building, and I think it was Uncle Grandpa. And I don't quote me because I don't know this. I'm assuming, and that's where he met Johnny Ryan and Pete Browngardt and all those guys.
Sure.
And he said, and I'm finishing my career here. And I said, yeah, I started there on Cow and Chicken. And I was on the first show there. I was on the last show there. And then a moving van pulled up.
Wow.
And I think both of us just started to cry and said, you know, are we out of work? Are we done? Like, where does this energy, this crazy Looney Tune energy go? They're just not making, forgive me, everybody, because I know you have favorites out there. They're not making funny shit anymore. They're just not. Everything's very soft and very silly and funny, and it's not that hard. Even Nickelodeon's not making Chalk Zone. They're still doing SpongeBob, but even that's gotten a little soft as everybody's gotten very old on the show. And, you know, you kind of say, what is it? And then I believe there is a resurgence happening at Cartoon Network. Get excited. We're going to go back to the day the earth blew up, but they are rebooting Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
That's amazing.
And it's called Foster's Fun Time, and it's for little kids. But one thing to tell everybody, Cheese is back. Cheese
is back.
Cheese is back. I've done 2 episodes. It's in partnership with the UK. I believe also it's also France, but I think the writing and the animating is Ireland and England, and they are rabid for Cheese. They're rabid. The stuff that I have recorded, I've gotten into my car and laughed so hard. And the only difference is that we're not in that building doing it.
That's great.
We're at Warner Brothers, where we have our own little niche. We have our own entrance in the towers, and we have our own booth, and it's fantastic. And Bill is still there. I mean, it's just pretty great. I'm just going to say that. And so I think we're back. And I honestly, I was there on Friday, and then I was back on Wednesday for the party.
Sure.
And I saw Rebecca again, our producer on Foster's, and she's amazing, and our producer on one of our supervising producers on the day the earth blew up. And she just says, I just got a good feeling. And I was like, I do too. I just feel like we can turn a corner with everything. Like she was saying, oh my God, that session was wild. And I said, well, you've not been around Cheese a lot. He is back, and the people in the UK, they get it. This is the dumbest stuff I have ever heard in my life. And I think it's really, really good. And so I got that feeling like maybe if we all clap really loud, Tinkerbell will live. I do think, though, that it's beautiful. The day the earth blew up is beautiful. I had a lot of fun doing it. And I know that Sam Register and Pete were talking about the voice characterization for um, for Petunia, and we really wanted to stay away from damsel in distress.
Yes, which you did a
And
great job of.
Thank you, and I'm hoping that there was heart and intelligence
Oh,
and
absolutely.
frustration and all the
Yes.
things that you never had. And Eric Bauza had pointed out to me a couple years ago when we first started working Space Jam and all of that. And he said, if you look at the old cartoons, it is voice characterizations by Mel Blanc, whereas June Foray is dancing backwards in high heels as fast as she can, and there's no mention of her. And the first time that Granny was ever credited was Space Jam and Looney Tunes. And I just thought, I think what they're trying to do, and it's not any sort of a redo on the characters, if you know what I mean. It's not, we're not trying to redo them. I'm trying to be politically correct. It's not a DEI. It's not like, oh, we need to make the women strong. It's just that we don't need to prop up Mel Blanc.
Yeah.
Eric Bauza is so strong in these characterizations, and he's such a good actor, and he's so dedicated, and he's so professional, and he's so damn good at what he does that I can bring my A game and he isn't offended.
On that note, I also wanted to mention that back in the 1937 short Porky's Romance, the very first iteration and first appearance of Petunia, she was voiced by Bernice Hansel, and Mel Blanc did the voice of whenever she was really excited. So her yelling voice was a dual role as well, which I just think is ironic and funny. But yeah,
that's hilarious.
You are taking on that legacy. June Foray, obviously the original voice, or one of the main voices of Granny. We've already discussed her lineage, and you taking over that legacy and what it means to you. But, coming in for Petunia, there is such a rich history with that. And this film just elevates that character, gives her a new light, gives her a spotlight for the first time in I don't know how many decades. But one of the things I love about it is that the shorts give a kind of an introspective into the Frank Tashlin Petunia, and this is more of the Bob Clampett Petunia. And they're two very different characterizations of the same character in the same era. But this film goes above and beyond to give you that, that sincerity, that adventure seeking, thrill seeking, enamored with love and Porky's attention characterization that I think fans are really going to fall over and fawn over.
I think so, because I you have to remember, one of the things about playing the straight man in anything is that I have got to let Porky and Daffy have the punchline.
Yes. I
have to be able to set it up, but I can't set it up demurely. I can't set it up like an, oh, golly gee, I don't know what I'm doing. It has to be the character has to be so honest and just so excited about flavor and all of this that she's like a little mad scientist. And I think that growing up the daughter of a stand-up and knowing how to play the straight man and set it up, it is the Bud Abbott to the Lou Costello. And that is exactly what The Day the Earth Blew Up is. It's Abbott and Costello. It is when they meet the mummy and the werewolf and they're losing their minds, and the eyeballs and the stuff, the animation is so great. But I think that was the tricky thing, because to be a strong comedian, and I am a comedic actress, that it's really hard to make that delineation. And I think that's why, and I don't want to say I'm good, but I think it's why I work, is because I can play oh, Rudy, you got to draw something, and I've got all the punchlines. I'm on Chalk Zone, and I've got all the punchlines, and I'm whap, 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 and Rudy sets Snap up, and Snap delivers. Petunia sets Porky and Daffy up, and they deliver. And I think there was one, what we call a button in the entire movie, where they did something. I set them up, they said the punchline, and I went, okay, like I buttoned it, and I
Oh,
thought,
yes.
yeah, you just don't, you don't do that, because that's not Bob Clampett's style. Bob
No.
Clampett's style is the eyeballs, Daffy's eyeballs coming around the corner. I mean, that is that.
Yeah.
That's that loud, fast, funny, and Petunia has to keep up with that. So one of the things I think I have an abundance of is energy. And I think that's what the difference between the Golly G of Duck Dodgers, Petunia, and the original, the Fleisch, like, oh my goodness, oh, I like a sugar, I like a boogie, that. And then with the hands, this little sort of a Betty Boop kind of a style. And now we're more into where June Foray took all of these characters.
Sure.
And I just, and you and I have spoken about this before, and sorry to all of your listeners, but I started with Warner Brothers, and I started on Tiny Toons, and I'd like to end my career at Warner Brothers. I'd like to keep going and do these characters, because when people asked me, they asked me at Comic-Cons all the time, what was your favorite cartoon growing up? And by the time I was 11 or 12, they had Josie and the Pussycats. They had, they had the Archies, and they had these weirds, and then they had the Jacksons and the Osmond brothers. And I gravitated on to Fractured Fairy Tales, but my go-to was Clampett's Looney Tunes, where woo 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 woo, like our family was the Bob Clampett Looney Tunes. That's what we were. And by the time I was like 11 or 12, I was involved in children's music theater. So my Saturdays, I was in a theater all day, and Sunday I was in a theater all day, and I wasn't watching cartoons. But to go back and be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and just remember Captain Crunch and cereal or Sugar Smacks and or Fruit Loops, and watching cartoons, it was on a Saturday morning. It was great. And I think that is where that's what I want to do. That's the voice acting that I want to do. I always get very nervous when they send me, you have Providence Health as nurse number 1 to audition a radio spot. And I'm like, I'm never going to get it because I'm me.
Right.
And the me that I am is always going to bleed through a script. And it's going to be like, do you really want to go to Providence? Do you really want to come here if I'm the nurse? Like, that's underneath everything, where it was like, well, Mr. So-and-so, did you take your blood pressure today? It always comes off like, did you take your blood pressure today? You didn't, did you? Like, that's the unspoken. And I think you can hear my timbre change throughout the movie, where I start very flirty and nervous and very high. She's pitched up, and Sam just coming back and saying, more real, more. And that's how they got us into 2021, because it's basically my voice towards the end. It's just me talking as this cute little pig about I don't want to give it away. Bubblegum and butt cracks. That's all I'm going to say. It's a movie about bubblegum and butt cracks. And
I love it.
Just so thrilled.
I'm glad you said Fractured Fairy Tales, because I would put up with Rocky and Bullwinkle episodes just to get to Fractured Fairy Tale segments. That was my jam as well growing up. But that led us to the Patreon question of the interview, which is to ask Candi Milo how she finds inspiration for her unique voices, and does she have an all-time favorite character to voice?
Well, since every character, and I know this sounds so trite to your listeners, but I'm being very, very sincere. Every character is me. It's some part of me. It's either fearful me, sad me, funny me, sassy me. It's always me. If I can see a drawing of the character there is something that happens towards the back of my head and the voice comes out. And I know that that's the truth because
Wow.
I have a page of our script from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and they were auditioning in the room. That's how we got these extra jobs. It would just be like, hey, do you want to go around and just read a couple of lines? And before I read, I said, I have this idea that Cheese is Rain Man, and they said, but it's a kid. And Craig said, come into the booth. And he drew it, and I have it. He took a page out of the script and drew Cheese on the back, and I was like, oh, it's a little tiny Rain Man.
Can I help you?
I like chocolate milk.
Yes, I caught that before.
Can I have some chocolate milk?
What do I look like, your mother?
Can I have some chocolate milk?
Frankie, this kid wants some chocolate milk!
I like chocolate milk.
And we did it, and everybody
Oh,
just
wow.
absolutely roared. And so for me, the drawing, the rendering, I did see Petunia. I did see Petunia. I don't know that she was in the Looney Tunes at all. I think maybe Gray, Delisle had done something in Wabbit with Petunia or done something in Looney Tunes because they weren't thinking of me like a June Foray. They weren't. They were just like, oh, she does a great Granny. Oh my God, she's so funny. She does a great Witch Hazel. But they weren't like, she also does Miss Prissy. And she does, like, I could do whatever the old ladies did because I watched it. So I think I saw a drawing. And then, so I go back and forth between my characters, my favorites. It's either the Flea from Mucha Lucha. Yeah, ladies.
Oh, yes.
Shame over pain, baby. Shame over pain. Cheese. And I do think that Dexter from Dexter's Lab is like a double-edged sword for me. It gave me my career, which is so funny. And I'll tell you why. I've been voicing everything. And I would go in and do one of my voices, like the teacher from Cow and Chicken. Cow, chicken, oh, you idiot. I had been doing that everywhere. It was in my club act. It was like, I had been doing these voices everywhere. And everybody was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And then as soon as Chrissy Cavanaugh quit and moved away, and I was able to mimic her, and got on as Dexter. I think it was like year 2. She'd only done a year and a half, and then she had some health issues, so I replaced her voice on the second half of the second season.
Okay.
I don't know that they changed the name, but I certainly got paid for them. So I think that voice, which was so hard to do because Chrissy was so beloved, and to think that she wasn't going to do any of her voices, for me to come in and sound enough a lot like her, and then I got more and more like her, and I understood her rhythm. It was very difficult sessions because everybody did not want me there. They loved me. I'm still very close friends with Jeff Glenn Bennett, who played Dad in Katsusi. They wanted Chrissy there. So I hated the sessions for the first year and a half. Hated it. Hated going Tuesday afternoons, 2 to 6. Hated it. And we had a voice director that was relentless on rather than getting the comedy, it would be like, you didn't sound like her on this word, until Gendy had to come down and say, everybody just needs to leave me alone until I can get into the rhythm of it. Yet it gave me my career because suddenly that voice became this voice. And then we were doing this. And then I got on Chalk Zone and I was doing this and I was doing that. And it really opened up the door for my sense of humor and my sense of voice characterizations, which are big and loud and funny and stupid and broad. And I think that, so it's those three that I go back and forth on. And I'm so thrilled that Craig McCracken has brought back Cheese. Like, I can't even tell you.
It's such a beautiful career, and your palette
Thank
definitely
you.
expanded with Dexter's. And
Yeah.
you know, whenever you go back, like I'm thinking about it, and I don't even recall the voice changing. Like whenever you
Thank
took
you.
over, and like I just thought it was a continuous, you know, Dexter is who I'm hearing Dexter throughout. So
Yeah, and
um
I really worked on that
yeah.
because I am not of, I'm not a celebrity chaser. I don't
Mm.
like when they put all these celebrities in animated films because their voices are not unique. There is Robin Williams, and then nobody cares about anybody else. I'm sorry, they don't.
It's
And
true. It's
they,
true.
there are
And we still
very
miss
few,
Robin Williams.
yeah, and there are very few celebrities that have Robin Williams' energy, which is basically Fred Tatasciore and me and Eric Bauza and us coming in, and it's like we are like this, and we're not even on sugar. We are
Yeah.
like this, and we're loud
Can
and
you
like,
imagine?
oh my God. There's an interesting phenomenon where, Wayne Knight has a great voice. Peter McNichol is insane in The Day the Earth Blew Up. Lorraine Newman is putting on this. We have the energy of 500 men in a room. And I'll give you an idea. Rugrats, I took over there as well for Chrissy. It was suggested by the casting, and it was suggested by the voice director that maybe they needed a celebrity to come in and do it. So they got Nancy Cartwright, who's not really a celebrity, but she's a voiceover celebrity.
Yes, she
And
is. That's the voice
her
of Bart Simpson, if you
right,
are
and
unaware.
which is for the first year exactly what Chucky sounded like. Bart Simpson with a cold. And now the character is very different. It doesn't sound anything like Chucky, and it didn't revive it. It didn't do anything, but her agent at the time made it so that she could never be replaced. So they'd have to end the series. And I don't know who at Nickelodeon made that deal, but I do know that I was asked to, it was so funny because I was kind of bitchy about it. So they took me off of it, and I'm pretty sure she's not working for Scale like I was.
Oh, wow.
And so they had me, it was going to be somebody playing like the good angel and the evil angel. They wanted
on the shoulders.
Right. And so they wanted me to be the evil angel on her shoulder.
Oh, okay.
And they said, but please listen to the voice sample.
Oh,
and
wow.
I said, do you want me to voice match yet another actor playing Chucky? And so I did it as Chrissy.
And I said, I did it just like that. I said, well, I would love to be doing this. I don't think you should do that.
And they were like, and they said, you were requested by Nickelodeon. And I just didn't want to do it. I was like, I don't need you to throw me a bone, and have me do the devil on her. Or are you wanting me to do it so that she can copy me?
Right.
In doing the good angel, and this is how you change up your voice and do this voice. And I just sent it in late and whatever, and I didn't do it. And I think Nancy ended up doing it. But there comes a point where I say, oh my gosh, I'm just going to take my piece out of the game, and just I don't want to do this. This is all yours. It's very CGI. It's very soft. It's very round. It also does not have any of the humor except the humor that is infused by the voice director, who's, and the original girls. And I just was like, I'm not the audience.
Right.
Don't call me on this, because this is also no longer right up my alley, because the writing is different, the animation is different, and I'm kind of good. So I mean, I'm being very serious when I say I would love to be able to just work with Warner Brothers, Cartoon Network / the Hanna-Barbera, that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just more my vibe, because there is no more Jay Ward. Fractured Fairy Tales is my other.
There's no more Jay Ward.
There's no more Jay Ward. I know his daughters are still alive, I believe. His kids are alive, but there's no more Jay Ward cartoons. But That's what I would really like to do. I think that's it. And um, yeah, and I think that animated films, so that your listeners know, are cast by major studios. And so what they do is all the leads are cast by celebrities. They're not putting any voice actors in. How voice actors get in films and get teeny tiny parts is they're part of a loop group. And that's usually run by somebody who can't really voice act, but they can do one or two lines. And so they put themselves in every movie and they run these groups, and you're paid. And then in the loop group, you get one or two lines as this character and that character and this character. And I think that that's how we do it. And because that is how I did it on, Spirited Away. As I had,
yes.
I do want you to know, I was walking around in the dark, and I walked by the director's desk.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at me, the actual director of the anime, because we were replacing everything. And I walked back around when we're doing this stuff. And as I walked back, he said, "Stop." And he looked at me and he said, "Are you Candi Milo?" And I said, "I am." And he said, "What in the fuck are you doing here?" And I was like, I said, you didn't call my agency for an audition.
Wow.
So they called me here. I think it might have even been Mickey McGowan, God love her. They called me here to do this. And he was like, "You don't have to do this. Come back and I'll give you a character." And I was like, "Thank you, but I am going to continue to do this." So just so your listeners know, that is how it's done. And when you hear the same 5 people as all these small characters, they are part of this loop group where one person runs it, and they have all the paperwork. Like, I wouldn't want to be a loop group person, but you have a whole subgroup of people who get paid like they've done the feature film by doing a loop group on it. So nice work if you can get it. But I was talking to Cam Clark, one of the Ninja Turtles, good friend of mine. I love this guy. And we were laughing, and I said, "Do you do your loop group anymore?" And he said, "No, I've taken all of the needles out of my eyes." And I thought, thank you. It's like sticking needles. And I was like, okay. I said, we should do a loop group with just you and me. And we could do every character. And we were laughing and just talking about it. But, that's the underbelly, wink, wink, of the voiceover world. And
well, looping it back to Petunia real quick. I have a trivia question for you.
Loving it.
Regarding celebrity voice actors. Who is a celebrity voice actor that voiced Petunia in Duck Dodgers, the series?
Oh God, should I whip out my phone? Well, I have to tell you, here's what I'm going to say to your trivia question, people. If I'm not on the show, I don't watch it, because I'm an adult and I was a single parent. So when I got home, she couldn't watch anything that I was on, but she wasn't a Duck Dodgers a fan. She was a Tiny Toons fan, which was interesting, the original Tiny Toons, but she wasn't, so I didn't watch it. Who is it?
Jodie Benson.
I'll never get away with this, Zag.
Oh, my dear, don't be so cross. After all, that's no way to speak to your future husband.
I will never marry you, you deviled ham. I'd sooner die than be your bride.
Then you shall have your wish.
I love Jodie Benson. Well, she is only famous in the voiceover world. Come on.
Yes.
So her
ex-husband... I said voice acting celebrity.
Oh, voice acting celebrity. I love her. What a talent. And she still sounds great. And her first ex-husband, where she got the name Benson, he and I did Dreamgirls together on Broadway, just so you know.
Wow.
Yes.
That's great.
And then when they broke up, that's when I first met her. So I've known her since 82.
Oh my
83.
Gosh.
And then when they broke up, I kind of lost. And then we had the same agent for like 7 years, but we're so different sounding that we never went up for the same things. Like if we went up for the same show, if they hired me, they were not going to hire her. And if they hired her for a role, they were not going to hire me, because she's a real Disney voice, and I'm unhinged.
Well, that is because she's such a Disney voice. That's why I was surprised to hear her do Petunia.
I know.
That's
I
wonderful.
wonder how that happened. I think probably.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know that I must have, because how the business used to work, for your listeners, is that if you voice directed, you also cast. And the only people who had a separate casting department was Disney. And so that you didn't do any casting, you just showed up and voice directed, did your script. But that's what it used to be. So it must mean that I didn't know the casting director.
Wow.
Or it was suggested, it was that kind of a thing, suggested by an agent that they liked. I just love her. I think she's marvelous. And how old am I that I was in Dreamgirls in 1983? How old am I? God, how much did I let that slip? I'm 175,000. Right. I feel like 75,000 years old today. That's just it. I'm trying to figure out what.
Fantastic.
Why, thank you. I'm trying to figure out what I'm wearing to this. Tomorrow we are doing a round robin of publicity for Catch Up Entertainment and Warner Brothers. They're participating in Century City tomorrow, and I will be gone out of my house from 8 a.m. to probably 6 p.m. tomorrow. Just
you hear that, burglars?
Yes. I got nothing but this computer that you and I are doing. Yes, there's nothing. There is nothing I wouldn't do for this film. And I did this once in San Diego. I was launching MeTV Tunes, and which was really fun. And it was on Bugs Bunny's 75th birthday. And we made this great film. And we did a round robin where they took us to a suite of rooms. And you just went from room to room and podcast to podcast and interviews and fast questions. And that's why I have these papers. You can hear the papers that I have to get talking points down and, be on my know who wrote what, who did what scenes were, reminiscent of what was referenced. And I'm just excited to do this because we have such a short window to encourage people to come to the movie theater again. Yeah. And, it's hard, to get out, but I think that to bring kids to something where both kids and adults can laugh, it's perfect. And I think it's loud, fast, and funny. And, little Miss Petunia will be there with her vials of vile stuff.
Yes, we're definitely celebrating 2D animation with this film and hoping that people go out and see it. Slight correction on Bugs' birthday. It was 84th last year.
Last year was 84, so 82.
82, okay.
So 82, because we did it, and it'll be his birthday every year, but I wonder if... Every year. I don't know. Anyway, I know that it's now going to be every year it's his birthday celebration. And I know that I've got stamps from his 80th. So I don't know if they were, but I know we didn't do it 4 years ago. We did the film. We did not do it in the middle of COVID. We did it in probably 2023 is when we did it. So 2024, when it came out on MeTV Tunes. So yes. So that's it. Yes, I have no idea. Gotcha. I thought it was an anniversary, a big anniversary, but it is going to be shown on, they made this great film on his birthday every year on MeTV Tunes. And the thing I like about MeTV Tunes is that it is a non-paying television station. You can go to metvtunes.com and find out, where it is in your area, but it's on television. That's it. And I think that
Yes.
it's in your area. It's not an app. It's just,
Check your local listings.
yeah, Tubi. They were saying a bunch of other things that you can get it on too. So, and it's free.
Fubo, I think.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And Freevio, something like that. I just,
Yes.
anyway, it's just, it's really great. And that, it feels good. I do think that Jeff Bergman does an unbelievable Bugs, like an unbelievable heartfelt, he's such a good actor. And he does other things as well, but he's such a good actor. It just wasn't a Bugs show, Porky and Daffy, or else I'm sure he would have been there.
I'm sure too.
Oh God, he's so great. But I mean,
He's wonderful.
You have to. I do love being Petunia next to Eric Bauza's Porky and Daffy, and tomorrow he is going to be in rare form. Let me tell you. But Bauza is going to be in rare form because it's going to be the trio as a duo rides again. I think
amazing.
I think we're going to be jacked up on coffee and ready to rock and roll. I think
Porky
that's it.
celebrated 90 years yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And Elmer Fudd was also 85 on the same day, just 5 years later.
God.
So, these characters are as old as our grandparents, but we still love them and we want them to have the careers that we believe they deserve in front of fans, in front of kids. And that's why it's important to get out to theaters March 14th and see this movie. Candi, thank you so much for your
welcome,
time.
Sweetheart. It was so great.
Where can people find you online?
I am on TikTok for as long as it lasts at Candi Milo, all one word. And I do love it. I am on Instagram where I'm having a lot of fun. It's hard for me to answer anything that isn't in a post because there are days, everybody that's listening, that I get 200 or 300 people requesting photos or an answer to a question. And I just personally, that would take me 2 or 3 hours and I don't have that time. But if I make a post and I see it, I can do a little quick thing. But to go into my personal settings and go into general, because I have other people like you saying, do you want to come back on the podcast? That's where do you know what I mean? So that's it. Instagram. I no longer am on Facebook. I don't want to do a platform like Twitter. And that's what I was finding Blue Sky to be. It was a little too much like Twitter. It also got very mean, very quick. And so I was on and then I'm off. So I'm on TikTok and Instagram right now. And then I'll probably announce, I do have a book that is coming out. I'm re-releasing my memoir with a brand new publisher, a brand new editor. It's really great. Just spoke to them today. So I have been writing on Medium under me. I do have a Substack, but I'm never on there because I don't really want to get into political opinions, and it seems to be overrun with that. So I just write my little stories about my weird life on Medium. And my book is called Surviving the Odd, The Fine Line Between Laughter and Lithium, which is the story of my childhood. And there are pictures in case you think it's a lie, but it's funny and horrific at the same time. And I'm with Rare Bird Lit, and I think we're going to be out by May of this year.
Awesome.
So I'm very excited. They're typesetting the book now and we're selecting photos. So I'm thrilled. And thank you for having me on. This just makes my life.
Absolutely.
I love it. Thank you for all things Petunia. And we've got a blue mug.
A blue mug, yes.
That's what they gave us at the end. And
I saw that.
I want to bring it tomorrow, so I'm hoping that publicity knows that they should have 2 blue mugs tomorrow for us too.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm very excited.
And listeners, you can follow thank you, Candi. And listeners, you can follow the podcast over on Instagram and everywhere you download your podcasts at This Means Podcast. I've been your host, Jonathan, and it has been an honor to have Candi on the show and talk to her about Petunia and The Day the Earth Blew Up, which I hope you do see in theaters.
Yes, go see it.
As always, that's not all, folks, and keep it right here for everything Looney Tunes.
Of course you realize this means You know.
Yes, that's a very interesting Looney Tunes podcast. But do you want another Looney Tunes podcast?
You can never have enough Looney Tunes podcast, Jordan.
Oh, really? Well, if you start listening to That's Not Quite All Folks, a Looney Tunes podcast, you may get more than enough Looney Tunes podcasts. You may get too much Looney Tunes podcasts. But that's the exact kind of show that we run, Mark.
Yes, we are a show that has coexisted with this here, of course, Really This Means podcast show. Jonathan's a great guy. We've collaborated on each other's shows plenty of times. Though I think this is the first time we've been on Jonathan's show. Hey,
yes, even.
Hey, we're on Jonathan's show. Oh, we can do whatever the hell we want. Oh, this is so much fun.
Hey, David Zaslav. No. Yes, each week we do 3 Looney Tunes cartoons. We cover them. Classics, new ones, Looney Jason projects. Anything you want. It doesn't have to be 3. It doesn't have to be classic. It doesn't have to be anything. But we analyze the comedy mentalities, talk about gags, talk about voice acting, talk about all the elements that make great cartoons. At the end, we give them Anvil ratings, 1 to 5, because we feel like it. Sometimes they're accurate. Sometimes they are not accurate. Sometimes they're not meant to be taken seriously, especially if people who make them are listening to them.
And also, in every single episode of That's Not Quite All Folks, you'll hear the complete and imparable ramblings of 2 people who have been friends for way too goddamn long.
Exactly. So, if you like that sort of thing, and if you like complete and utter tomloonery as far as the eye can see, you will probably really enjoy That's Not Quite All Folks, a Looney Tunes podcast. Find it wherever podcasts are readily available.
Hello, this is Anthony from Anthony's Animation Talk, home of the Looney Tunes Review Project. Now, what is the Looney Tunes Review Project? It's a passion project of mine where I want to review every single Looney Tunes short ever made in the Golden Age. I'm not the first to do it. People have done it before, but not to this extent, where I go through each and every short in depth. So I'm going through each short year by year. I've got most of them on the channel. I've had to redo a few because of copyright issues with Warner Brothers, but all in all, once the project is all done, there'll be 1,000 reviews for 1,000 shorts, all in depth, filled with information, plus comments if there's any corrections to be made and that sort of thing. And on top of that, I do other videos as well, like reviewing new physical media releases and just other fun stuff. So come on over to the channel, check what it's all about, and join me on the journey to review every single Looney Tunes short ever made.